something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And good morning and welcome to it live from the shadow of Detroit. Kicking off another brand new day here on the Steve Gruber Show. Almost Christmas. Feels good, doesn't it? From the biggest foxhole of freedom, which always makes me ask, who do you want in your foxhole? If things are hitting the fan, who do you want to be shoulder to shoulder with? Got a lot of work to do here today. We're going to have some fun as well. Maybe you give me an idea what the greatest Christmas gifts are. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the price of gasoline, the lowest it's been in years. This is the time of year it usually jumps just in time for Christmas. But this Christmas travel season, good news for drivers. Price continues to fall below $2.50 where I am. Number two, big news in the trial of accused Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson, as the defense is asking for the entire prosecution team to get tossed out over a conflict of interest. All right, and number three, the Epstein files. Here we go again. They were all the rage for the Democrats, all they could talk about for weeks. Well, now they're out, of course, last Friday, big dump. And the person seen the most is one of their own, former President Bill Clinton. They're trying to ignore it, of course, on the left. The Democrats are trying to ignore it. The left-wing media is trying to ignore it. It seems Democrats just don't want to talk about it as much anymore because, as everyone knows, there isn't anything incriminating about President Donald Trump. There never was. Another lie blown out of the water like a narco-terrorist boat. As the Democrats scramble for anything they can grab onto, they need a life raft. Their approval ratings are at 18%. They're looking for anything. They need anything to get this election moving in their direction. It's not happening. On Morning Joe, yeah, that place. What do they call it, MS Now? Is that what it's called now? Anyhow. Joe Scarborough admitting that Trump is not in the Epstein files, but then tries to twist the facts anyway. This is how desperate they are. Listen to this.
One of the great mysteries to me and a lot of other people is we've had reporting for some time. Donald Trump is not on Epstein's list. There's nothing in there that's really damning about Donald Trump. And as Susie Wild says, not damning about Donald Trump.
According to the chief.
Or Bill Clinton. So one of the great mysteries all along in this, not been like, what's Donald Trump hiding? What did he do? It's like, why, if he's not in these files, which all the reporting says he's not, why is he so obsessed on blocking access to the files? Is he trying to protect somebody?
Joe, you got to the actual heart of the question, and it's actually not been reported. One of the reasons Marjorie Taylor Greene got on board with Massey and my effort is she fundamentally believed that Trump was not implicated, and she would call the president and say, look, just get these out. I don't know why you're not getting it out. And she would tell Massey and me, of course he's going to come around. And every press conference we had, we never made it about Donald Trump. We made it about the survivors.
What is he talking about? They made every press conference about Donald Trump. Anytime they could bandy about Donald Trump's name, they would drag him through the mud. Every single time. Look, the attempts to kill Donald Trump politically continue. That will be the only goal if Democrats get control of Congress next year in the midterms. The only play will be hammer him with impeachment. Now, Republicans will retain the Senate, take that to the bank. They might even pick up a couple of seats in the midterms. Places like New Hampshire and Georgia are vulnerable. Places like Minnesota are in play. Michigan's in play. Keep that in mind when you think about who's going to win the Senate in 2026. The chance of the Democrats getting the Senate and control there is somewhere around zero, in my estimation. Now, the House, different play. Of course, you've got that big Supreme Court decision coming out in June. The case out of Louisiana on using race to create your congressional districts. If that goes the way we expect it to, that'll mean states like Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama can all switch seats to the Republican side of the ledger. Could be as many as 12 seats. We'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, Charlemagne the God. You know, Charlemagne, kind of a quiet fella. He calls out the dishonesty of the Democrats and the news on the Epstein files recently. He really nails it here. Listen.
It's funny how the news works, because Bill Clinton, wrote a letter to, Jeffrey Epstein as well for his birthday, but nobody's talking about that. And Jeffrey Epstein had a picture of Bill Clinton in a dress in high heels, in his New York mansion, but nobody's talking about that. My thing is this. I don't care who's on the list. Everybody got to go. Burn it all down. Like that's just simple as that. Mutually assured destruction. Whoever's on that list need to go. Nobody needs to be protecting pedophiles. I don't care what party they are.
No, period. And, to that point, though, Clinton is not the president right now. If he was, you think that, anyways, yeah, I think he would still be under scrutiny if he was the president right now.
No, he wouldn't, because liberal media wouldn't push the issue.
Oh.
Bingo. Because liberal media would ignore it. They don't want to talk about this. They don't want to talk about why was it Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton only that when you walked into Jeffrey Epstein's mansion in Manhattan, there he was, a giant painting of Bill Clinton in a dress. That's a message about as clear and about as subtle as getting hit by an 18-wheeler. About as subtle as a heart attack. That's the painting that was there, right? The Democrats have, for the last several months now, gotten more shrill about the Epstein files. But wait a second. Didn't they have the same files in their possession for 4 years of the Joe Biden administration? We've talked about this time and again. Of course they did. And if they had one iota, one shred, one crumb of evidence that Donald Trump had been anywhere inappropriate, done anything inappropriate with anyone, certainly anyone underage, it would have been plastered all over the news media because they knew they couldn't beat him. And now, we're going to get back to this, 315,000 ballots cast in the state of Georgia that were not valid. John Ossoff was never elected to the Senate seat he currently holds for the state of Georgia. That's another seat that they're probably going to lose in the midterms. Fact of the matter is, Donald Trump won Georgia. It's crystal clear now. 315,000 votes were counted that were predominantly for Joe Biden, counted in the 2020 election in Fulton County, Georgia. Anybody who doesn't look at this now honestly and says, well, Georgia was not won by the Democrats. Georgia did not win a Senate seat for John Ossoff. Didn't happen. Absolutely did not happen. Anybody that looks at that now and says otherwise is not being honest. They're being dishonest completely, and they know it. They don't care. It doesn't matter. It is about power. It is about control. I mean, that's why you have, for example, $950 million coming into a state like mine, Michigan, for the midterms. Michigan is a critical swing state. Michigan, in Donald Trump's estimation and mine, is ground zero for the 26 midterm elections and the 20 presidential election. It was ground zero for the election we just passed in 2024. However Michigan goes in the midterms, the country will go. If it's slightly right, country will go slightly right. If it's slightly left, the country will go slightly left. If it's wildly either way, that's the way the country's going to go. Michigan has become the bellwether for the nation. It's not Ohio anymore. It's not North Carolina. It is the great state of Michigan. 10 million people. And $950 million, according to the folks in Virginia that spend all the money, those agencies that place all that political money, and the calls are already coming in. The calls are already coming in. Open Senate seat, open seat for governor, open Secretary of State, Attorney General, the whole shooting match, plus competitive seats for Congress. It's all about power and control and money. Lots and lots of money. We're going to take a break. I'm not done with the Epstein files yet, or with anything else. 2 days until Christmas. You got your shopping done? My voice could go before we're done here today. You know, cold and flu season got me a little bit, so it is. This is the Steve Gruber Show. because there is on grab when they play it. I'll put the video. Jay puts the video. All right, jumping back into it now. Bear with me today, folks. I got a little bit of, I've got that deep voice of I could be sick in a day voice. We'll be fine. Glad to have you here as we're a couple of days away from Christmas diving in. The Democrats apparently wanted the Epstein files for Christmas. They got it. But they seem to forget over and over again that Joe Biden had these documents. The Biden administration had these documents for all 4 years. Wasn't such a push then, didn't seem to matter then, but when they thought they could make the narrative about Donald Trump, which they've tried and tried and tried, by taking Hawaiian Tropic models and blurring out their faces and say, look, here's Trump with a bunch of women. Good for him. He was with adult women that were swimsuit models. You know, kind of the American dream for red-blooded American men. You know, look at all the swimsuit models that are hanging out with me. Yeah, anyhow, listen to this.
And as far as what they have put out, I mean, it's laughable that this is an administration that claims somehow that they're being transparent when most of what they put out was either A, already public record. So much of the documents, could be as much as half of them, were already in the public record. And what the other pieces that they released were highly redacted. And in some cases, entire documents, not one word was actually left on there for the public to see. So this idea that somehow they are being honest with the public, what clearly is happening is a White House cover-up. They are now trying to cover up the truth. So it's incredibly important that Congress and the American public and the survivors who are really leading this effort stand strong and continue to push for the release of all of the Epstein files.
Yeah, that's what desperation sounds like, by the way. The Democrats keep screaming about the Epstein files, but yeah, Joe Biden had those for 4 years. His administration had those for 4 years. Didn't seem to care then, did they? Why is that? Because they didn't want to tar and feather Bill Clinton, who was apparently a frequent flyer, had a gold card to Epstein's pedophile island, had a gold card, frequent flyer on the Lolita Express, all of that. Yeah. You know who's got it right? Bill Maher gets it right. He's calling out all the twits on the left that have been exposed by the Epstein files. I mean, Bill Maher, has a cocktail, and every now and then he gets it right, more often lately than before. Listen.
Alan Dershowitz, Bill Gates. I always said this about Epstein. When there's a guy who's like super rich and you don't know what he does, he's a pimp. And guys like Bill Gates, who are nerds, who are the opposite, they need a friend like Epstein.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's not because he's some financial genius.
Right.
If a guy is super rich, Anthony, write that down. If a guy is super rich, you have no idea where his money comes from, he's a pimp. Note to self, pimp. Where's that money come from? Yeah, Bill Maher nails it there. Speaking of the 26 elections, I want to get this in because it's interesting. Senator John Kennedy, clearly one of the most entertaining people on Capitol Hill any given day, with more one-liners than anybody else, talked about the 26th election. And Jasmine Crockett, who is the odds-on favorite to be the Democrat nominee for senator in the great state of Texas, says she doesn't need Trump voters, doesn't need support from any of those people. Well, good luck, Jasmine. Here's Senator Kennedy just giving a review of her candidacy. Listen.
Well, the Congresswoman, I think it would be fair to say, is part of the moon wing of the Democratic Party. They are ferociously woke. She and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez are two good examples. They believe that cops are a bigger problem than criminals. They believe that if a cop has to shoot a criminal, it's automatically, in every case, the cop's fault. But if a criminal shoots a cop, it's the gun's fault.
Calling it out, dumber than a box of Crockett's. Jasmine Crockett is an absolute gift to the Republicans in the midterms. I mean an absolute gift. She's going to be the theme song for the Republicans trying to hold on to Congress and to win seats in the Senate. And again, I believe there's several seats in the Senate that could go to the Republicans. Georgia, first and foremost. New Hampshire's strong possibility for the Republicans. Michigan's up for grabs. Minnesota is up for grabs. Competitive race developing in the state of Minnesota. That's interesting. It's always going to be a competitive race in Michigan. We'll see who comes out on top of that deal. Speaking of Jasmine Crockett, she claims her whole ghetto shtick, this whole act that she puts on, having going to private schools, fancy private schools that cost $80,000 a year in tuition, that somehow she became this person who grew up on the streets and has street cred. Oh, give me a break. But here she is defending it again.
The fact that he said I have a quote-unquote street girl persona, I'm sorry, but anybody that you talk to knows my credentials. They know that I've gone to school. They know that I'm educated. I never tried to put on some random story about where I came from. But at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I am authentic. And that is actually what they are fearful of, is my authenticity, because it rings true with every single American, whether they're a Texan or not. It rings true that I am fighting for real everyday people. And instead of talking about policy, when you're talking about the record speaks for itself, baby, let's talk about your record. Because the only reason you're the vice president is because the current president tried to have his last president killed. Let's talk about qualification.
Yeah, we will talk about qualifications, of which you have few, from what I can tell. But we applaud you, Congresswoman. We do. We're very pleased that you're running for U.S. Senate in Texas, because you're going to say ridiculous things. You're going to put on that ghetto shtick. You're going to try to sell yourself as some sort of street girl and street cred, please. But it's good. We appreciate it. Winter's here, by the way. It's your chance to get a muskox, the undisputed leader in heavyweight flannels. It has you covered. Brand new heavyweights are here, but they're selling out fast. You're probably a little late to get one for Christmas, but you want one. It's the best flannel shirt you're ever going to own. Double brushed, 100% cotton. It's an American company from Detroit. My good friends, GoMuskox.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save $15. This isn't a shirt. This is an investment. GoMuskox.com. Promo code Gruber. $15 off your favorite muskox. You're going to love this shirt. Trust me. It will be your fan favorite. I'll be right back. All right, here's a little bit more now on that Fulton County scandal. And this is not just a little scandal. This means that Donald Trump won Georgia in 2020, clearly. The separation was less than 12,000 votes between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden was awarded Georgia, but here's what we know. 315,000 early votes were counted in 2020, despite being certified, despite being legal. Is another way to put it. These were not legal votes. They were not certified. They should never have been counted. Some say they were counted twice to get to that number. A Georgia State Election Board hearing earlier in December regarding a challenge raised by a local election integrity activist, David Cross, per the Federalist. Cross had filed the challenge March of 22, alleging that Fulton County had violated state election laws in handling the early voting during the 2020 election season. I find that all to be very disturbing. It means that John Ossoff was never elected as a senator from the state of Georgia. That's a fact. And Donald Trump won that state. It wouldn't have changed the outcome of the election, but it is proof positive that there was fraud in the 2020 election, as Donald Trump has always said. Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections, Ann Brumbaugh, said during the hearing that while she has not seen the tapes, she believes and does not dispute the tapes were not signed, which is required by law. It was a violation of the rule. New people are there. Under Georgia law, election officials are required to have each ballot scanner print 3 closing tapes at the end of each voting day, which poll workers must sign or include a documented reason for refusal. It's the law. You must verify and then put your signature on it and verify that this is real, this is authentic, this is genuine, these are real votes. Unsigned tapes went through 315,000 votes. John Ossoff is a false senator. That's my belief. They violated official election record document processes when it was discovered that 36 out of 37 advanced voting precincts in Fulton County failed to sign the tabulation tapes as required. No verification at all. Another huge story to close out 2025. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk with the former ambassador to the Holy See, Francis Rooney. It's Christmas season, after all. We'll have a little Christmas theme after this. All right, getting back into it now. The Pope was a dark horse, to say the least. An American Pope, born and raised in Chicago. Never had an American Pope before, of course. And my next guest is Ambassador Francis Rooney. He served as U.S. ambassador to the Holy See, that is, the Vatican. Appointed by President George W. Bush, he subsequently wrote a book about diplomacy in the U.S. Holy See relationship titled The Global Vatican. And he joins me now. Mr. Ambassador, how are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you here. Now, you knew the Pope quite well over a number of years, but there are some criticisms of this Pope. People think that he is too left of center. I hear that. Same complaint that many people in the Catholic Church had about the previous Pope, but you give him the benefit of the doubt, having known him for years. What is your take on his time so far as Pope?
Well, I think he's done a great job. I mean, he started out right out of the box with that Jumbotron Youth Day Mass at White Sox Park. What a classic American way to present himself. And his trip to Turkey, I think, was very successful. He didn't make some of the mistakes that Pope Francis made when he went to Turkey. And he went to Lebanon and called for the people of Lebanon to stay there and invest in their country and build freedom there. I thought that was very positive message. So I think he's off to a good start.
The Pope, speaking of Lebanon's about 40% Christian, but you go back 25 years, it was 60% Christian. It's one of those places on the planet where Christians are being targeted, forced out, murdered in some cases, not as bad as places like Nigeria. But the Pope's pressure to keep Lebanon as a, well, at least partially Christian nation, it's important, but does he have the strength, the ability, the political will to get it so it stabilizes, I guess? Because Lebanon is a country that's in real trouble. We've had people on the program here recently talking about it, that they're being forced out. It was the only Christian nation, primarily Christian nation in the Middle East, and it really is fading fast. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's the last of the Mohicans here.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to Baghdad in the late 1800s, it was 40% Christian and had a lot of Jews too. And now look at Iraq. I mean, we don't want to lose Lebanon if we can avoid it and keep the Christian coalition that's enshrined in their constitution.
Yeah, let me be a bit cynical here, Mr. Ambassador. Nigeria, the president came out and said, you've got to stop murdering Christians or you're going to face the wrath of the United States. No such edict given for Lebanon. And I asked some people that have been to Lebanon recently, I said, why is that? And their response was cynical, so I'll ask you. He says, because Lebanon has nothing to offer in the world of natural resources, no rare earth elements, no oil, no gas, nothing. So we focus our efforts on Nigeria that has a lot of those things that could be of value to the United States in our economic world. Lebanon doesn't have anything to offer in that regard. So do they just get, as they say, thrown to the lions?
Well, you may be right about that. You know, I mean, our real politic is based upon what's in the United States interest. And I would argue that Lebanon is in the United States interest from the point of view of having a Christian minority in some country in the Middle East, but maybe the Trump administration sees it differently.
Yeah, it concerns me because Lebanon should be defended with the same authority and zeal that you would protect any other nation, any other place that there's a genocide occurring like Nigeria. All right, so in this Christian season, the Pope's been to Turkey, like you said, spoken of Lebanon. What do you think the Pope should be focused on in 2026 as we turn a page here and he enters his next year of the papacy? What should he be focused on to secure the safety of Christians? Christians are being persecuted around the planet, as you know, Mr. Ambassador. What can he do?
Well, I think he'll probably speak up about the Venezuela mess at some point. And I think he'll continue to speak about migrants. You know, migration's become a global phenomenon here. It's not just Latin Americans coming to the United States anymore. It's everywhere. And there are a lot of people that are marginalized. The President of the United States has kicked out a lot of people who don't have criminal records that work for companies and providing jobs that we don't have enough Americans to do. So I think it'd be great if the Pope continues to speak up about immigration.
Yeah, I disagree about that, by the way. I've seen plants like the packing plant, I think it was Nebraska, where there was a raid and about 50 illegals were arrested. And the next day, their front office was packed with locals who wanted those jobs. So there's a lot of debate there, and I'm just going to agree to disagree with you on that. I think there's plenty of Americans to do most of the jobs. if given the opportunity. They won't do it for $5 an hour, but they'll do it for a fair wage. And so, yeah, that's one of the places where a lot of people are disgruntled with this Pope, talking about the free flow of people. I don't think it's done London any favors. I don't think it's done France any favors. And in this country, I don't think it's done us any favors by and large. You can't let 20 million people come in unvetted, can you?
No. And, you know, George Bush tried to solve the problem in 2007 with comprehensive immigration reform, which would have closed the border and provided for a sign-up program to be vetted if you came into this country, and we'd know who you are and we'd know where you are. But the combination of some Freedom Caucus and some labor unions scuttled it. Harry Reid wouldn't give George Bush a victory there, and that would have solved the whole problem 30 years ago.
Well, that's true. And there were people on the right side of the ledger who like cheap labor, who like to pad their bottom line because they can get cheap labor. And I agree with you. If we have a process that was appropriate, where people were vetted and we understood who was coming in, but that was not the policy of the previous administration. They brought in front-end loaders and lifted razor wire that the state of Texas put along the border to protect its state, opened it right up. There was a free flood of people. And sadly, we see the result of unvetted migration. We saw it recently at Bondi Beach in Australia, I believe. I mean, if you bring in people that are not compatible with your culture, what happens to your culture? That's the real question.
Well, I happen to think that we're very fortunate to have all these potential immigrants from the Western Hemisphere that share the Judeo-Christian ethic with us. And I would prefer to have them versus some of the people from other parts of the world that really have very little in common with us. And
I agree with that.
Inhibit assimilation. We don't need.
When you talk about
coming here that
Venezuela,
won't
for
assimilate.
example, I mean, you're talking about Roman Catholics, South America, Central America, predominantly Roman Catholic. And we have a lot more in common with the folks coming from places like Venezuela or Central and South America than we do from places around the world. I agree with you on that. It is the Christmas season. The Pope will be giving some sort of a word here, I would assume. And I'll give you the last word here on what you expect for Christmas 2025.
Well, I think he'll try to send out a hopeful message. He'll probably talk about immigration. I think he'll talk about peace around the world where there is no peace, where there's conflicts. And I think that he will be soothing and calm in his demeanor, which is one of his hallmarks. And my family and I have had the opportunity to know him for some time, and I think the way that he expresses himself will become very important in how the papacy presents itself.
All right, Pope Leo, 2025, message to come. Mr. Ambassador, always a good conversation, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
And Merry Christmas. We're going to take a break here. I'll just be clear about this. That's one of the big disconnects with this Pope with people in this country. We do not believe in open borders. We have a new immigration policy, and the border is closed, and that's one of the disconnects. But we have all people on this program to give you perspective. When we come back, we're going to talk about the economy closing out 25, going into 26. What's it mean for you financially after the break? A lot of indicators to look at it. The economy is doing better than it has been. Inflation, that number, I mean, I saw the people on CNBC gasp when they saw the inflation number at 2.7%. I saw gas yesterday in my neighborhood lower than $2.50. The national average continues to go down daily. A bunch of places like Texas and Oklahoma now have stations with gas under $2 a gallon, right? I mean, the national average is $2.85. It's remarkable. Join me now is Nick Hopwood. And Nick, good to have you back on the program, of course, from Peak Wealth Management. He keeps his eye on this stuff every day because it's his job. He takes it serious. Nick, good to have you.
Good to be here, Steve. Merry Christmas to you and all the Gruber fans out there.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Nick. All right, there's a lot of indicators here that things are pretty good. Black Friday was an all-time record. Cyber Monday, same thing. Christmas on a path for people to spend $1 trillion, first time ever. Gas prices are down. Usually gas prices go up around Christmas, but getting gas for $2.50 or less in this country, pretty easy in a lot of places. That's positive. The inflation number, a lot lower than anybody predicted. What are your indications? 2025 closed out pretty good and the markets are doing fine, right?
Yeah, the economy looks to be on solid footing. The markets, we have to look into the crystal ball for that one, but the trend is definitely up. And interest rates are headed lower. And Steve, I have an actionable item here for you and your followers here. I'm doing this myself. I bought a car in, 24, and the rates were 6.5% on a car loan. I'm refinancing to a 4.6% car loan, going to save a couple $1,000s in interest.
That's good. Can't you write off the interest on an American car under the one big beautiful bill? Isn't that happening?
Well, when it's owned by the business, you absolutely can, yes.
There you go. Also, something else for people, the tax refunds, because taxes are going down in the middle class. It's a big deal. They'll have more disposable income from lower gas prices. You can write off the interest on your American-made car, and refunds as high as $20,000 is the prediction, Nick. These are all remarkable things to me. Your thoughts?
Well, we'll have to see if the refunds are that big, but it would be remarkable, definitely. And it's not too late to buy down your taxes for 2025, or at least avoid some taxes the right way by doing, if you're RMD age, do a qualified charitable distribution. If you're charitably inclined, you can also do a donor advised fund. It's not too late. If you have capital gains that you've harvested throughout the year, do some tax loss harvesting. If your income is lower than expected, do a Roth conversion. If you have an inherited IRA, make sure that you're taking out enough so there's not a tax bomb that's going to go off in 10 years. So these are the things that we're talking about with our clients right now.
That's good stuff. Cisco Systems is in your notes here today. Most valuable company in the world, March of 2000. It finally made a new stock high 25 and a half years later. But what did other areas of the market? When you see the market at the close of 25 is a pretty good year overall, wasn't it?
Fantastic. Double digits for stocks, if not more. And commodities, like we've talked about many times here with gold and silver. Not all commodities, though, like oil, as you mentioned. Even fixed income, in some areas, double digits, but if you own the index, high single digits. So it's been a great area for the market. But let's remind ourselves, every time that we have someone come in the office, they're super overweight the S&P and large cap growth, large cap tech. Let's remind ourselves with Cisco right here, finally making it back to an all-time high 25 years later. What happened in 2000 to 2009 was a lost decade in the S&P. And everyone who believes solely in the S&P today conveniently forgets about that data. During that decade, the S&P was minus 1% per year, but value was plus 4% per year. International was 6% per year. Real estate was 10% per year. This is my call for you to diversify your portfolio beyond the S&P.
Yeah, don't put it all in one place. Yeah, you're exactly right. And what happens if you take it on the chin and a 10% drop? People freak out. Look, I get nervous when that happens, right?
I know you do because you send me texts.
I do.
Let's face it. 1 year ago, I was on the show here with you at the end of the year, and I said, what's your plan for next year's 10% correction? And we did get a 20% correction, a near bear market in May and April with the tariff tantrum. So Steve, in 2026, when the 10% correction comes, what will you do? Will you buy? Will you look at it as an opportunity and buy? Will you hold and do nothing? Or are you going to panic sell? Let's have a plan. Let's have a plan for 2026.
I panic sold once in my life. That was 25 years ago. We'll never do that again. Hey, by the way, I was in the room when Michael Dell put up $6.25 billion. I was at the White House that day, talked to the president that day. He's putting out $250 to 25 million American kids. Now Ray Dalio's joining him, putting in billions of dollars. I like to see this at Christmas time. What are your thoughts on this?
I love it. I love to see Dalio stepping up. In addition, companies like Uber, BlackRock, MasterCard, Visa making announcements for their employees' children. When employees have babies, they're going to be adding to the Trump accounts as well. I think we're starting to gain some traction here. I really applaud Dell and Dalio. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's great. Michael Dell. I feel like I've wasted my life, though, Nick. I don't have $6.25 billion to give away. My life has been a complete waste.
And he still has $150 billion after that. Imagine that.
It's remarkable.
But the gift here, Steve, is not just $250. It's the gift of education. That's right. Imagine now if you never had a chance to have an investment account. Now you do, and you can educate yourself about saving and
partner
investing.
that with that's for kids 10 and under. You partner that with the Trump deal where he's giving $1,000 for every newborn. I mean, you can really start to build some stuff here, and you can put $5,000. It's basically a 401k for kids. Anyhow, if you want more information about how to plan for 2026, Nick Hopwood could be your guy. PeakWM.com, PeakWM.com, the QR code on your screen there. Click that. Get a second opinion. He never wants lazy money. So, Nick, I'm going to leave it there for 2025. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
No lazy money in 26. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Nick Hopwood, always a pleasure. PeakWM.com. Call Nick. And yes, I do text him. What the heck is going on? Why is this happening? I never sell anything, though. At any rate, we'll take a break and be right back. Glad to see you today. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, as we close out this hour, and by the way, a little programming note, we'll be on Real America's Voice for an extended period this morning. We'll be on for another hour coming up, so keep that in mind. We're going to keep right on rolling. But dream job. What's your dream job there, Anthony?
Oh man, let me buy and sell older Chevys.
Man, I saw one the other day. My son and I run around one of those big square trucks. Oh, it was perfect right there, not too far from your home. I thought, man, Anthony would love that truck. Anyhow, here's my dream job. And it's just been announced by the Trump administration, creating opportunity. President Trump has recalled 48 ambassadors from Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, and elsewhere. I think being an ambassador would be a great job. Look, I'm available. Just call me. I think Fiji would be nice. I mean, that'd be a good. And so I sent this note, this article that I saw that was in offthepress.com that Trump is recalling 48 ambassadors. Sent it to a member of Congress that I'm good friends with. I said, look, I see job opportunity here. And I said, what does it take to become an ambassador? What kind of a donation does it take to one of President Trump's, initiatives, if you will? If I give some money for the ballroom, for example, I mean, what's it take to become an ambassador? Nothing. He didn't even respond to me. This is a guy I've known for years. I'm like, wait a second. I've got a dream job staring me right in the face. I've got 48 ambassador positions or more, 48 that were Biden administration ambassadors, which, by the way, look, this is normal. It's not unusual because you're an ambassador for the president. These are all Biden folks. He said, you're out. I just smell opportunity here. Anyhow, I get no call back. I get totally ignored. This hurts me at Christmas. You can appreciate that, right, Anthony? This is a guy I know, a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Doesn't even respond. A guy reaches out and says, hey, I want to be an ambassador. I get ignored. I'm a little hurt by that.
Well, did you send your resume?
No, but I will.
Okay.
New Zealand would be number one on my list. I've been there 7 times, a bunch of times. Know that country well, anyhow. All right, like I said, we'll be continuing on Real America's Voice this morning. We got a lot more to talk about here today. We're going to talk about Christmas and the economy and what's going on in the boardroom. Plus, we'll have Don Brown, who's running for Senate in North Carolina, great candidate. He's a fiery individual, thinks he's going to win, and maybe he is. He'll be joining me in the next hour as well here on the Steve Gruber Show, so I'll see you in just a few minutes.
Something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And welcome to it as we kick off another brand new hour here at the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board for the conversation. A lot to talk about today. Just 2 days from Christmas now, and always fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. That's what we do here. Who do you want in your foxhole? Who do you want to be shoulder to shoulder with when it hits the fan? It's an important thing to think about. 3 big things this hour. Number 1, offshore wind projects getting canceled by the Trump administration, and the 5 huge East Coast projects, think about this, could be replaced by just one natural gas pipeline and deliver the same energy output. They're a disastrous plan. Number 2, Fulton County, Georgia, now admitting it counted 315,000 illegal votes in 2020, which means John Ossoff, never legally elected senator. Donald Trump certainly won the state in the presidential race, too. Wouldn't have changed the outcome of that, but it makes you say, you know what? That fraud we heard about, real. And number 3, the spreading scandal of massive fraud in Minnesota keeps creating new problems for Governor Tim Walz. And now 98 mayors have sent a letter to the governor and state lawmakers saying, you are destroying Minnesota. We went from an $18 billion surplus to a $3 billion deficit. Think about that, a $21 billion swing under Governor Tim Walz. And frankly, other Democrat governors in other states are no better, because it's not just a Democrat problem, it's a mass immigration, turn your head the other way problem as well. This is a problem plaguing Minnesota. It's in the front of the news, but it's not just Minnesota. But we're going to start there. The fraud in Minnesota involving Somalis stealing from social programs expanding dramatically. And then they send all that money, much of it billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, your dollars, back to Somalia. Here is the U.S. Assistant Attorney for Minneapolis outlining how big this problem really is. Listen.
The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled the claims data for these 14 programs dating back to 2018. And those 14 programs in Minnesota have cost $18 billion since 2018, and more than $3.5 billion in 2024 alone. So that's a sense of the magnitude of the problem. These are the 14 Medicaid programs, which is just a part of Medicaid, these waivered services that have been flagged as having issues with program integrity and fraud. Now, I'm sure everyone is wondering how much of this $18 billion was fraud. It's not the $1 million question, that's the $18 billion question. The answer is far too much.
Far too much. And here's the problem. Anybody who says, look, you've got this problem in Minnesota with the Somali immigrants. Oh, you're xenophobic. Oh, you're a racist. No. 87 arrests the last time I looked in on it. 78 had roots to Somalia. 78 out of 87 is a pretty clear problem with the community that is fraudulently taking money from Minnesota taxpayers for a variety of government programs, lining their own pockets, and then shipping that money back to Somalia. This is a problem of great magnitude. Now it's showing up in places like Maine as well. Not just Minnesota, folks, but this is where it starts. This is the tip of the iceberg. Governor Tim Walz, good luck with your reelection efforts. Good luck. Your entire administration's coming down because of your inability to handle or manage state government in Minnesota. They had an $18 billion surplus. $18 billion surplus. It's now a $2.9 to $3 billion deficit by 2028. They've blown all the money and then some. And the fraud crisis in Minnesota has triggered a financial strike team from the federal government. That's right, the federal government's coming in with a strike team. Listen to this.
You sent a team from the Labor Department to investigate. What's this about fraud tourists?
Well, unemployment insurance fraud is something that the American people don't deserve. You know, the unemployment insurance fund is to be whole for one specific reason, and that's to bridge the gap between when people lose their job at no fault of their own, that they can find a new job, and it's to bridge that gap. When you steal hundreds of millions of dollars from the American taxpayer, we need to find out what is happening. So I did send a letter. The Department of Labor, through the Employment and Training Administration, sent a letter to Minnesotans to say, we want to know what is happening. So please produce those reports. So we're going to send in a UI strike team to find out exactly what's happening on the ground. We will not tolerate fraud under this administration.
Was there this fraud tourism? I'm interested in that. I'm told there were Somalis loading up suitcases with dollars and flying to Africa to deliver it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to find out. And those are the reports that we're demanding by the 1st of January. So when that UI strike team goes in, we can do that full investigation and report to the American people exactly where those dollars have gone.
Loading up suitcases with money and fleeing the country. How do you feel about that, Minnesota? How do you feel about that as a taxpayer? And don't think it's isolated to Minnesota. It's not. Waste, fraud, and abuse, and you getting the bill to pay it all. And as a result, in Minnesota, Republicans are protecting whistleblowers from Democrats. Won't tell them who they are. We're getting whistleblowers coming in every day now from different departments, different agencies, different funds, different initiatives. And the Republicans are saying, we're not going to tell you who they are because we don't trust you to protect them. Listen to this.
And as far as what they have put out, I mean, it's
laughable. I'd like to respond to that. So we did receive your letter, Inspector General, asking us to share information with you on credible whistleblower reports. And to date, we have not, because there is no trust, as you might understand. This fraud has been perpetuated on your watch, and the whistleblowers who reach out to us within the department are terrified. And they feel that they've been retaliated against already. They feel that they are very afraid. They're afraid to reach out to us. And if they thought we were then turning around and giving it to you, we would not have whistleblowers. So we initiated a whistleblower portal last spring in response to people who were afraid to come to you. And that has received hundreds of tips. Belatedly, you all also put out a whistleblower report portal this fall, which I think hopefully is also generating tips. But when I get credible allegations of fraud from whistleblowers, we meet with them, we interview them, we ferret it out as much as possible.
And let me tell you, this is why the Minnesota Senate seat that's being vacated by the Democrat is up for grabs. This fraud is front and center for everyone across Minnesota. And rightfully so, they're angry. An $18 billion surplus becoming a $3 billion deficit under the watchful eye of Governor Tim Walz and his Democrat colleagues. This is a reflection point for the voters of Minnesota, a reflection point for those that are going to decide who does go to Washington, a Democrat or a Republican, to fill that seat. Minnesota's in play. Minnesota could send a Republican to the United States Senate for the first time since I think about 2008. That would be a remarkable turn of events and a big benefit to the Republicans. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll take a break right here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Nice to see you today. Merry Christmas. There's been a big shift in the last year or two. I really think that the whole DEI woke nonsense kind of reached its pinnacle. And now it's retreating, and I can see that in a variety of places. Transgenderism, for example, reached its peak in 2023, and now it is coming back the other way. And in the boardroom of America, the boardrooms across this country, these woke ideas are also being rejected. And join me to discuss this is Esther Bouquet, Free Enterprise Project Associate. Esther, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, your executive director, Stephen Padfield, wrote an op-ed at Real Clear Politics and said he is submitting a women's rights audit proposals to several companies, asking boards to report on whether their decisions are fully informed by the biological reality of what a woman is and the specific risks their policies pose to female stockholders when it comes to DEI, corporate activism, wokeism. Pretty important at this point because who's more important, a transgender woman or a real woman? I mean, that's this corporate woke attitude has just gone too far, and I think it's starting to be reeled back in, especially by folks like yourself. Tell me about this.
So that's absolutely right. A lot of corporations are protecting transgender women over biological women. Stefan's argument is really saying, hey, how can you say that you support women's rights and protect women if you refuse to define what a woman is? So a lot of what we do is kind of asking corporations to rethink how they approach DEI when it comes to women and including women in the boardroom.
How did we ever get to this point, Esther, that, you know, a business, certainly a publicly traded business has a duty to its stockholders, a fiduciary duty to its stockholders, and yet they get into all this corporate activism, which oftentimes impacts their bottom line, is not in the best interest of the company, takes them down some rabbit hole they don't belong. Why did we ever get here in the first place?
I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of activists that are very loud and don't represent the majority of shareholders or the majority of Americans. And so they are all up at the top. A lot of boardrooms are more, aligned, you could say, one way instead of the other. And we are the one of very few voices saying, hey, female shareholders want to know how you are protecting women, how are you protecting their daughters when it comes to supporting legislation, supporting sports associations that permit biological men to compete with biological women. These types of things, they're just not being addressed in the boardroom because that's not where the priorities lie.
Yeah, the same problems that plague public schools in many ways have plagued corporations, big corporations, forcibly inserting men into women's restrooms, locker rooms, changing areas under this guise of transgender rights. Well, what about the rights of you, Esther? What about the rights of women going to work every day to feel that they're not being infringed upon, they're not being forced upon by some activist CEO or board? I mean, this is an important thing. And do you fight back in the courtroom? Do you fight back in the boardroom? Where do you fight back?
I think we can fight back everywhere. I don't think it has to just be in one place. One way that we are kind of arguing against this push for prioritizing biological men over biological women is by saying, hey, companies, you have to define what a woman is. We don't want you to force female employees to share restrooms or locker rooms with biological men if that makes them uncomfortable. So, also arguing that, companies have no place in certain politics if you are signing legislation that, such as the Equality Act. In 2022, many companies signed this pledge supporting the Equality Act, that would have forced employers to consider biological men who call themselves women as women. Certain,
there are left-wing bullies out there. I'm just going to call them for what they are. They're left-wing bullies like the Human Rights Campaign, who says, well, you've got to have, this policy that includes transgenderism, that includes other things that are not in the mainstream, because it's not in the mainstream. It's very fringe. That's very clear. But they have this corporate equality, the Corporate Equality Index. It awards the top scores to companies that integrate gender ideology into every facet of their operations. So holding the Human Rights Campaign accountable and saying no to them. How about just say no? We're not playing your fool's game, all right? That's a good place to start, isn't it?
That is a good place to start. And also if companies do want to partake in that, shareholders can, they have a voice, they can submit shareholder proposals, they can take their money elsewhere. So like you said, you don't have to play the game.
Yeah, and a game it is, and we need to stop playing this game. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being here. Keep us up to date on this, Esther. Make sure you come back and give us an update because, like I say, I think that it reached its pinnacle. I think it's on the decline, as it should be, because people are like, wait a second, stop that. Just stop. Let's focus on what we're doing as a company, as a business, as a nation. Esther, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate it. Let's stop the activism in the boardroom, in the schoolhouse, everywhere. Give the gift of relief with Patriots Relief, something they'll truly appreciate. Right now, Patriots Relief is offering gift cards in $25, $50, $75, $100, $150, and $200 increments. Now, they already come at 5% off, but if you use the promo code Gruber2, you'll get 10% off. So a $200 gift card, $180. A $100 gift card, $90. So 10% off the gift cards. And you can save a lot of money and real relief, real savings, only at Patriots Relief.
15% off.
And promo code Gruber, say that again?
15% off the gift cards.
I thought it said 10%. Well, maybe it's even more. Maybe the price is even better.
Even more,
and you can also save 45% on all other products, right? Anyhow, go to patriotsrelief.com. There's a pile of savings for you. That's what we figured out here today. Pile of savings. It says 5% and 10%. Anthony thinks 15. Whatever it is, you're going to be happy about it. Merry Christmas from all of us here and from Patriots Relief. I'll be right back. All right, Anthony was right. By the way, I had it wrong. He's giving you more money off. It's 15% off when you use the promo code Gruber2 at patriotsrelief.com. The best CBD products you can get out there. patriotsrelief.com. Promo code Gruber2, you'll save 15% on those gift cards. Plus, there's all sorts of other savings on there as well. Thank you, Anthony. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, tries to boot prosecutors from the case. This is a big deal. The prosecution being accused of having a conflict of interest. In a court filing obtained by news media, attorneys for Tyler Robinson allege that senior members of the prosecution team had personal and familial connections to the crime scene. One of their relatives was apparently right there. According to the motion, a top supervisory prosecutor in the Utah County Attorney's Office had a close family member in attendance approximately 85 feet from where Kirk was when he was shot and murdered. Fled the scene in a panic, leaving behind a backpack later photographed at the crime scene and making real-time text messages to people inside the prosecutor's office. So the defense team says, we can't have this prosecution team. So the defense attorneys argued no recusal occurred and no ethical firewall was established to isolate the conflict. Steps courts typically require to protect the defendant's right to a fair and impartial prosecution. They contend that even the appearance of bias is constitutionally problematic, particularly in a case where the state is seeking the ultimate punishment, that is the death penalty. And this is why you, podcasters, don't get, access to all the evidence. You get these podcasters out there, well, we haven't been told this, we haven't told that. You're not entitled to be told anything. It's a death penalty prosecution. In the state of Utah, you have to go 12 for 12 on the jury to get a death penalty sentence, and so therefore there can be no deviation. It's got to be tight as a drum. It's got to be sealed. And therefore you don't get to just demand, oh, well, I'm a podcaster. I demand that I am able to see this. Shut up. Just shut up, right? You don't have the right to see that. You don't. Anyhow, so we'll see what happens with the judge in that case. Is there a conflict of interest? Is it relative to the prosecution? We'll know more coming up. Up after the break, Don Brown is back. He's running for a Senate seat in the state of North Carolina, former JAG officer and a guy who I think can get it done. He joins me on the show right after this. All right, back to it now as we dig in with Don Brown. He's running for Senate in North Carolina. He's been here before, and I enjoy talking to him. Don, welcome back to the program.
Welcome back to you, Steve. Merry Christmas to you and all the Grubers, and I enjoy talking to you as well.
Yeah, well, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Former JAG officer in the United States Navy, former federal prosecutor. You know your way around a courtroom a little bit. Let's talk about the things that matter most in North Carolina. Let's start with the economy. What's gas selling for there today?
Gas is dropping. We have seen gas down below 250 into 240s. Just across the border in South Carolina, I heard one report that it's under $2, and that is a big deal. You know, the Biden administration said they were going to wage war on oil and gas, and President Trump has deregulated, opened pipelines, and we're seeing a big difference in getting a lot of relief there. So we're very, very grateful for the president's actions and, you know, ending some of this green energy insanity that drove the price of gas through the roof.
You know, the national average is 285. The North Carolina average, 270 a gallon, about where it is in Michigan right now. But there are a number of stations, you're right, depending on where they are, that have dropped gas close to $2. Some states, Oklahoma and Texas, lower than $2. And look, at Christmas time, Don, that's when gas prices usually go up. Kind of makes it a bit of a pinch on traveling. Not this year. We're $1 a gallon less than we were a year ago, $1. And look, when I fill my Suburban, 27.5 gallons of pure pleasure, that makes a difference, right? If you compare it to when we were at $4 and $5 a gallon at the height of the Biden fiasco, I mean, we're talking $50, $80, $100 a tank on a big vehicle like a pickup truck or a Suburban, right?
Hey, listen, I've been traveling all over the state. Bought a brand new Ford Explorer a couple of months ago. Already have 20,000 miles on it. So, you know, I am grateful to see the price of gas drop, baby. Let me tell you. And It's just a matter of common sense. You can't go to war against oil and gas. I mean, the nation is driven on oil and gas. It's not on wind turbines and solar panels. And give me a break. You're gonna put the USS John F. Kennedy and put it sail it across the Mediterranean with solar panels or something?
No.
Nukes and oil and gas. That's what it's all about.
No, I just saw the Trump administration here this week dumped 5 major offshore wind projects in the Northeast. And I read, accurately so, that one natural gas pipeline would replace all the energy produced by all those windmills that are out there killing whales and creating problems with flight patterns and interfering with all sorts of things, and not to mention they're an eyesore, right? So let's get rid of that nonsense. It's time to move on from the Green New Deal hysteria and stupidity to real energy, which is oil, natural gas, coal, whatever, modular nuclear. I agree with that. Let's talk about war. You said war, let's talk about war. I've met a number of families recently who lost children, and I know you have this in North Carolina. You've probably come across some in your travels with your brand new Explorer. Families that have lost loved ones to the scourge of fentanyl and other illegal drugs. And not one that I've talked to give a damn about blowing these drug boats up. In fact, they fully support it. I bet you're finding the same thing. When I look at the Democrats saying, oh, we can't blow up these poor people that are drug runners and drug dealers, do they even consider these angel families, angel moms, and angel dads that are burying their loved ones that won't see that there are people alive today, Don, that won't see midnight, that won't see 2026 because of the scourge of illegal drugs? How important in North Carolina?
Extremely important. To put this in perspective, and I've said this before, we lost more Americans to fentanyl in 1 year than in 10 years to the Vietnam War. That's just 1 year. Fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction, and the president has a right to protect Americans on the high seas. And as far as this second tap of BS that the Democrats made up, and they made it up only because Pete Hegseth has threatened to call Mark Kelly back to active duty, and he should. But listen, if that boat is bringing in fentanyl or other drugs, and it's still in the water after the first strike, you blow it the hell out of the water. And if some terrorist is hanging on to the side of the boat, well, that terrorist should be blown the hell out of the water too, because that terrorist is bringing in drugs to kill Americans. You know, the former FBI director, Mr. Wray, said a few years ago they found enough fentanyl in one tractor trailer that had come across the Mexican border in Arizona to kill the entire state of Pennsylvania. And people are getting killed. You know, kids are dying, accidental overdose. They don't even know what they're taking. It gets put into other things, and it is an act of war against the United States. And so these
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And these products originate in China, and then they're combined into the final product in places like Venezuela and Mexico, and then shipped to us. It's poison. Look, people have been listening to me know that I had a friend who lost a 19-year-old son last year, college kid, good kid, smoked a joint on the weekend, didn't know it was laced with fentanyl, and they buried him. What a horrible story. All right, let's continue on with the what's going on with Venezuela. 3 oil tankers so far taken out of the Ghost Fleet. The first one we know had about 1.8 million barrels of oil worth maybe $100 million. 2 more are taken. Donald Trump and this administration are hitting these people where it hurts the most, in the money. They're hitting them in the wallet. They're taking away millions of dollars of illicit funds from drug dealing, from black market oil sales, which are, by the way, strictly forbidden. What do you make of it?
Well, let's remember Venezuela nationalized its oil fields and took American products. And the role of the U.S. government is to protect life, liberty, and property. And so President Trump is on justified grounds to protect American property, and the use of this oil, what it's been fueling, has compounded the problem that we described just earlier. And I commend the administration because the seizure of these tankers are very strategic. They're very surgical. It isn't like it's a full-scale war on Venezuela itself, but it is hitting them in the pocketbook. And there have been billion-dollar arbitrations requiring the government of Venezuela to pay back American companies. And what do we get? Nothing but crickets. So I commend the administration for its very surgical and precise campaign here to try to get some of that money back and to stop the flow of oil into this deadly drug trafficking we talked about.
All right, then the last big topic we can hit this morning before we run out of time, healthcare in America. I like the proposals from the Republicans, health savings accounts, health associations where millions of people can get together and negotiate better rates with United Health or Blue Cross Blue Shield or any other company. It's a path forward that makes sense. Stop sending money straight to the insurance companies. Stop enriching them. 90% of the money that comes from insurance companies for campaigns goes to Democrats. I'm sure you're shocked to hear that, Don. We need to fix this problem, don't we?
We do. The rising tide floats all boats. You got to have more competition in the insurance industry. Obamacare, which is what it is, Obamacare, the Astronomical Cost Act, was a monolithic scam between the Democrat administration and big insurance. And, we ought to have the opportunity to shop our health insurance just like we do with our auto insurance across state lines. In North Carolina, we've got Blue Cross, and that's basically it. I like what the Republicans are thinking. I like the general plan. I think that Obamacare's got to go. We got to have competition in health insurance, and it will speed the delivery of healthcare services and bring costs down. What's happened is a big monopoly between the government and these giant insurance companies. It's got to be busted up so that the medical profession can be more responsive to help the American people.
Amen to that. All right, Don, tell folks where they can find you and get on board with you and learn more about you.
Thank you, Steve. Please go to brownfornc.com. That's brown, FORNC.com. Drop us an email. Drop us a couple $100 here before the end of the year. We need all the money we can get in this campaign. We're fighting against a big money machine, but we're going to win the race. Please go to brownfornc.com and we will correspond. Appreciate you all.
Don Brown, Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas to you too, Steve. Thank you so much for all you do.
There you have it. Good man there. These are tough races. They're bruising races. Look, politics is a full contact sport. brownfornc.com. You can find out more. I'm going to take a break and be right back. You can also find out more at stevegruber.com. Send me an email. Tell me what's important in your neck of the woods. Tell me a hot story you want me to cover. stevegruber.com. Send me an email. I'll be right back. At the Gruber home, we used to All right, going halfway around the world for our next guest now, because we're going all the way to Israel. David Ruman, founder of the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. And he says that Iran is testing the patience, excuse me, of Israel at this point. David, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you. Good to be back with you.
Good to have you here. All right, so Iran, look, to me, looking at Iran today, they're at their weakest point probably since 1979. The attacks by Donald Trump rocked their nuclear ambitions. They can say that everything's fine. Clearly it's not. But they continue on, poking and prodding, fueling and funding terrorist operations here and around the world, and cheering on the attacks like that we saw at Bondi Beach in Australia, that horrible attack on Hanukkah festival goers. When you say that Iran is testing the patience of Benjamin Netanyahu, do explain.
Well, look, you have to remember what happened back in June. There was a war. It was a 12-day war. Israel had advanced substantially in stopping Iran's nuclear program and destroying many of the missiles, many of the thousands of missiles that they have, long-range missiles as well. They're even developing long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles for the purpose of attacking America. So, and of course Europe. So we have to understand that the reality is that President Trump came in and he did a great job in he says obliterating, but more accurately setting back Iran's nuclear program by a number of years. But the ballistic missile program has been diminished, but Russia and China are working full-time with Iran and trying to build it up again. And Iran has been
What do you think the reason for
signals.
that is? I mean, the efforts by Russia and China to continue to supply military-grade materials to Iran, is it to instigate a war? Do they want to trigger something? I mean, why would you continue to do that? The outcome will be similar. The United States will attack. Israel will defend itself. What is the goal for Russia and China here?
Well, Russia and China have always tried to do things against the West. People know that there is a fierce competition going on between the United States and China, and Russia to a lesser extent. Unfortunately for Russia, they're a bit tied up right now with Ukraine. But China is acting full force. They like to get the Iranian oil, and at the same time they're helping Iran to rebuild their military. And Iran has been sending signals. It's been very clear that Iran is revving up for another battle with Israel and the West. And Israel ignores this at its own peril, okay? Because this is an existential threat to Israel, and the Iranians have made it clear that they can do serious damage to Israel, and they can still do serious damage to Israel, and this is something that we can't ignore anymore. It should have been finished off, in my opinion. President Trump made a mistake in not letting Israel continue, and apparently there was an agreement behind the scenes that he would not follow through with finishing off Iran and the Iranian regime, and that's what happened. And Israel went along with that because we wanted those bunker busting bombs to attack the nuclear facilities, but it was very premature because it didn't finish the job. And one thing that the West has to learn, and learn quickly, is that when you fight a war, you have to finish off the job, because if you don't follow it through to the end, you're going to be back in the same movie again 1 year later, which apparently is what's going to be happening now.
So you anticipate then in 2026 there could be more direct military conflict between Israel and Iran. That's what you're telling me, David.
I'm telling you absolutely that's what's going to be.
Yeah. So if that happens, will Netanyahu listen to Trump again, or will he go it alone and just say, look, we're not going to continue to do this every 6 months or every 12 months? What is your prediction? I'll give you the last word.
Netanyahu will, behind the scenes, be telling Trump that this is what needs to be done, and he'll be pushing hard for it. What will be the outcome of it? Well, we're going to have to see. But I'm telling you what most Israelis believe, which is that we are heading towards another serious conflict with Iran, and there are no deals. There are no deals that are going to stop that from happening.
David Rubin, founder of the Shiloh Israel's Children's Fund, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. David, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. We'd like to avoid war, but some All right, let's check in on sports now with my good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Brock Purdy threw 5 touchdown passes, and Christian McCaffrey rushed for 117 yards. And the San Francisco 49ers cruised to a 48-27 victory over the Indianapolis Colts last night in NFL Monday Night Football in Indy. 49ers tight end George Kittle caught 7 passes for 115 yards and a touchdown as well. The Niners are 11-4. The Colts dropped to 8-7. With Indy's loss, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and the LA Chargers all qualify for the AFC playoffs. 7 games in the NBA last night. Winners included Cleveland, Detroit, Oklahoma City, and Denver. In the NHL, there were just 4 games. Winners were Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, Columbus, and Seattle. 1 college football bowl game. It was the famous Idaho Potato Bowl in Boise, Idaho. Washington State defeated Utah State 34-21. And in men's college basketball, number 1 Arizona was victorious. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
But Brock, what about Phillip Rivers, 44 years old, grandpa out there, threw 23 of 35 with 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Pretty good grandpa there in Indianapolis. I mean, his defense didn't do much. Not bad.
No, not bad considering he hadn't played in 5 years. I know,
His
but they didn't
second
win,
game.
so-
I mean, he's already on his way to the Hall of Fame, and this is like a bow on top of the whole deal. I mean,
well,
there's got to be
I guess
other.
you could call it that.
Got to be other quarterbacks out there that are like 40 going, wait a second. If he can do it. Anyhow.
And you're right. He is a grandpa. I looked it up yesterday. He's got him and his wife have 10 kids, and their oldest child had their first grandchild, a year or 2 ago.
There you go.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Brock. All right. 1775 coffee. Not your average cup of coffee. It's a high-performance, longevity-fueled elixir. 1775 took the bold, full-bodied roast and supercharged it with CA-AKG. A clinically backed compound that supports cellular energy and resilience. It isn't just your morning boost. It's fuel to keep you strong, sharp, and unstoppable. No fillers, no fluff, just damn good coffee. Get yours now. 1775 coffee. Promo code Gruber, you're going to save 10% on this bad boy right here. Good coffee every day. We're fueled with coffee here, folks. If I had to give up liquor or coffee, I'm giving up the liquor. I'm never giving up coffee. All right. We got another big hour straight ahead here on the program. 1775coffee.com. Don't miss that. Merry Christmas, my friends. We're almost there. The Steve Gruber Show continues in a moment.
make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome back to it. Greatly appreciate you being here as we kick off another brand new hour of the program from the Foxhole of Freedom. Took the show on the road. Might look a little bit the same, but it's not exactly. Northern Compound time. Good to have you here. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, 30,000 more pages of documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein case have been dumped today. We'll talk about that coming up. Number two, John Brennan's lawyers confirm he is the target of a Florida grand jury probe, asking the judge to intervene because Brennan knows he's about to be indicted for a variety of crimes during his time in the administration. And number three, I haven't covered this story much, but I'm going to do it. Sharon Moore, accused of sending strange messages to multiple women amid the controversy. Moore fired as the Michigan head football coach, later arrested, as you know. So Sharon Moore was reportedly messaging several women on social media over the last 5 years in the lead up to his high-profile firing to his flame-out at Michigan. Because he had an inappropriate relationship with his executive assistant, who he apparently got pregnant, who's apparently pregnant now with his child. Moore, of course, was married with 3 kids. It's just ugly. It's a stain on the university. It's a stain on the football program, one of the proudest in the nation. This comes from The Athletic, by the way. Detailed several instances yesterday of Moore leaving women perplexed by messages he sent to them over Instagram and elsewhere, all right? He's a serial philanderer, right? One woman told the outlet she received a message in November, hours before the Wolverines were set to take on Purdue. The message was a hand-waving emoji in which she responded, hello. The woman told The Atlantic she initially believed it was an account pretending to be Moore, but he assured her it wasn't. She congratulated him on the win, and in the next few days, she said he would react to some of the videos she posted on Instagram stories. Woman said she didn't engage further after learning he was married with kids. What is he doing, she asked herself, according to The Atlantic, sitting in the bathroom? Moore's interactions with women on social media were flagged to university officials. One official told the outlet that the messages weren't harassing in nature, but raised questions. It was not sexual harassment. It was propriety. Are you an idiot kind of stuff? I think we figured that out. The answer is yes. More than 20 people spoke to The Athletic about Moore's alleged social media behavior. 4 women described a pattern to the outlet of Moore liking a post on their Instagram stories and then engaging in a conversation by asking how they started to follow each other. Ellen Michaels, a lawyer representing Moore, addressed the report in a statement to the outlet. Sharon Moore denies any criminal wrongdoing. There's no history of domestic violence, no prior adjudication supporting claims of dangerous conduct, and no judicial determination validating these allegations. This matter will be decided in court based on evidence and due process, not speculation. Moore was arrested, as you know, on several charges. In having a long history of domestic violence against the staffer with whom he allegedly maintained an inappropriate years-long relationship. So there is an accusation of domestic violence here. And court documents obtained by Fox News Digital reveal that there is this allegation. Now, I don't know how this is going to play out. And I'm just reading this story just broke, and I'm reading it for the first time. And it's more disturbing allegations against Sharon Moore. I mean, this is such a mess for the university. I feel for Sharon Moore's wife, but how did she not know this? Here's another part. Court documents obtained by Fox News Digital revealed allegations made by the staffer's attorney, Heidi Sharp, on the day Moore allegedly entered her home without permission and later resulted in his arrest. Prosecutors detailed the alleged events that led up to Moore's arrest, including that Moore had engaged in an intimate relationship with the Michigan staffer for a number of years, and that the woman had broken it off 2 days before his arrest. Prosecutors accused Moore of contacting the staffer with phone calls and texts after the breakup, prompting the victim to contact the University of Michigan and cooperate with its investigation that had been launched months earlier. He was almost immediately fired from his job as the head football coach, which prosecutors said then triggered him to show up at the woman's home. He then allegedly barged into the residence, grabbed a butter knife and a pair of scissors, and began threatening his own life. My blood is on your hands. You ruined my life. No, Sharon, you ruined your own life. And then the disgusting idea that this is somehow racial in nature. I mean, there are people like Jamil Hill who had the audacity to say, well, this is racist. No, it's not racist. The guy's a pig, if these things are to be believed, which there's just a gross tonnage of evidence here. And it's not getting any better, and his contract will not be paid out. I hope he saves some of his money, because he will never work again, I don't believe. Anyhow, speaking of people facing criminal problems, former CIA Director John Brennan's lawyers have taken the extraordinary step of confirming their client is a target of a grand jury investigation in Florida and are asking the chief federal judge in Miami to stop the proceedings on the grounds that the Justice Department is judge shopping. The revelations came in a letter that defense attorneys Ken Weinstein and Natasha Harwell Davis sent Monday to the U.S. District Judge Cecilia M. Altanega, a George W. Bush appointee at the bench who supervises the Miami Federal District Court. Whistleblower evidence released by the Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and the CIA Director John Ratcliffe has called into question that assessment, revealing career intelligence experts disagreed with the conclusions made in a rushed report released to the public at the end of the Obama administration about the Russia collusion hoax. Yeah. Weinstein and Davis revealed they have been informed by the U.S. Attorney in Miami that the grand jury is investigating Brennan's role in the 2016 through 2017 Russia collusion probe that was since completely discredited, of course. It was all a hoax. Anyhow, so John Brennan is a target of investigation. He should be. The Russia collusion hoax was perpetrated not just on Donald Trump, but on this nation, weaponizing the intelligence community against a political opponent trying to destroy him. The same thing we learned at Mar-a-Lago, there was no foundation for that raid. The Washington field office of the FBI said they did not have probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago, and they said they didn't care. They didn't give a damn. They did it anyway. They did it anyway. A lot more to come on that for sure as we dig through it. Let's see. Coming up here next, we've got Steve Malloy, senior fellow at the Energy and Environmental Legal Institute and former Trump EPA transition team member. The 2025 climate tipping points. That's next on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now as we jump into the conversation moving forward. It's been a big day here. My voice is holding on, but not by much. We'll do our best here. Steve Malloy, Senior Fellow at the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, former Trump EPA transition team member. Steve, thank you for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's great to see you, Steve.
All right, so I just saw the Trump administration dump these 5 major off-wind wind projects in the Northeast, which they should, by the way. They're wildly expensive. They're unpredictable. They don't return a good amount of energy. And in fact, I read, and maybe you can shed some light on this, I read that one natural gas pipeline, would replace all the energy created by all of these windmills and all of this investment and all of this wasted, just wasted money, wasted resources. Yeah. One pipeline would replace all of that. What do you make of that?
Well, it's not going to be the pipeline. It's going to be the gas plants that use the pipeline. But yeah, probably just the gas plant will replace all the offshore wind. The offshore wind is the most expensive form of electricity there is. It's got all sorts of environmental problems associated with it that were overlooked by the Biden administration. Why? Because there's $1 trillion worth of green new scam money in the Inflation Reduction Act. They tried to build these things as quickly as they could, but then dead whales started washing up on shore. And of course, President Trump never liked wind to start with. So this is just sort of the expected outcome of the Trump presidency. The offshore wind is dead. We rolled back half the green new scam money in the one big beautiful bill, and President Trump is going to stop the spending of the rest of the money by taking administrative action to stop building offshore wind, to stop building solar power.
Look, we've seen the failure of the whole electrification nonsense. I saw a report this week. I think the buses were in the state of New York. They were mandated to have EV buses, right? The kids are getting off these buses freezing because they can't run the heat because the heat runs off the same batteries that run the bus. And if they run the heat, the buses can't make their route. Failure. In Detroit, Ford Motor Company takes a $19.5 billion write-off, ends the production of the Ford Lightning EV pickup truck because nobody wanted the things. I mean, you see one here and there, but that's about it. So EVs are dead. We saw the Biden administration spend billions of dollars on charging stations and built like 3 or 4. I mean, it was stupid, right?
Yeah, Steve, everything green has either been fraud and or disaster, really. The buses, of course, electric buses, school buses, regular buses don't work anywhere. Los Angeles has ended their experiment. Albuquerque, now New York is having problems. There are problems. They cost 2 to 3 times what a diesel bus costs, and their performance is lousy, especially in extreme weather. Battery stuff just doesn't work. Battery power is fine for 75 days, on a 75-degree days on a golf course, but in extreme weather, no. Ford has taken a total $35 billion bath on EVs. General Motors is losing billions. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act ended EV subsidies, ended the government industrial policy in favor of EVs. California's EV mandate has been rolled back by Congress. So EVs are struggling. Some consumers want them, but most don't, and the government should not be making us buy them.
No, that's exactly right. Look, I've been in a lot of Teslas. When you go to D.C., when I go there to cover the White House and so forth, when you get Ubers, you get a lot of Teslas. Beautiful car, by the way. The technology is great. The screens in the Tesla is the best there is in any vehicle I've ever been in. But I live in northern Michigan. It's 5 degrees and snowing sometimes. I don't want to be relying on an EV. Look, I saw the horror stories out of Pennsylvania last year when I-80 closed in a big blizzard, and all those cars are stranded out there for 24 hours, and all the people that were in EVs ended up getting into vehicles that had gas and diesel because they had run out of heat.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't take that kind of pressure.
Well, I just, personally, I don't really like so many electronics in cars. Electronics can be very glitchy. And that's we
Yeah.
saw this with the you know, and if they're not glitchy, then if you have a power outage, look what happened to San Francisco with the Waymos.
Yeah,
I
all the
mean, it's
Waymos were
just
sitting there blinking
you
at the lights because they couldn't function anymore. Exactly right. Go on.
yeah, yeah. And no, I keep hearing, Elon Musk, who, I love, very smart guy, but he wants everyone in driverless cars. And no, thank you. I don't want to be locked in a car can't get out. And the electronics work a lot of the time. Sometimes they don't. When they glitch, it's going to be a problem. And, if I'm in a car and I can't control it because, well, it doesn't want me to control it, well, that's not acceptable.
Yeah. None of this is acceptable, but we've turned a corner here, I believe, Steve. We've turned a corner. People are saying, we don't want the EVs. We don't want the windmills. Why would you build windmills offshore and destroy these beautiful seascapes with very little in return when you've got natural gas in spades? You've got oil in spades. You've got this country has energy in spades. Stop using pie in the sky nonsense to appease people like Greta Thunberg, who nobody gives a damn about. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah. Well, for about 15 years, we had no increase in electricity demand, and people thought we could get away with wind and solar, and we really couldn't even then. But now we have increasing demand from data centers. We're trying to reindustrialize America. We need real electricity generation, and that's going to be natural gas, coal, and nuclear power. Wind and solar just can't handle it. So President Trump is doing the right thing, but there's still opposition. 2025 was definitely a tipping year against climate idiocy, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Steve Malloy, always a good time to you, my friend. Merry Christmas. I hope we have a very productive and energy-filled 2026. Thank you, sir. We're going to take a break and be right back right here on the Steve Gruber Show. As I mentioned a moment ago, another 30,000 documents now released by the Justice Department in the Epstein case. Now, the deadline was Friday, and so we're looking at it. The Department of Justice Tuesday released a new tranche of nearly 30,000 pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Here's a quote from the DOJ on X. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. If they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already because, again, this happened in 2020. The Biden administration had access to all of this nonsense, all of this garbage. Now, we know they didn't have probable cause to go into Mar-a-Lago. They lied anyway. They did it anyway. The DOJ said it is releasing the files out of a commitment to the law and transparency. It added that the documents were released with the legally required protections for the victims of Epstein. So expect the people on social media. Oh, look, Trump. Oh, accusation. Accusations are made against people all the time that are flatly untrue. So I'm going to rely on the idea that what the DOJ I'm going to trust the DOJ on this. I am. And we're going to go with that. All right. This part of the program brought to you by PuroVet, PuroClean's Veterans Initiative, PuroVet program, because life after service deserves opportunity, ownership, and purpose. If you're a veteran or if you know a veteran, this is your chance to get to the front of the line. Own a PuroClean franchise. PuroVet is part of PuroClean. They're a reclamation company. I'm working with them after a house fire last year at a rental property. They have been fabulous. That's my endorsement. They have been fabulous, start to finish, all right? So if you want to be at the head of the line and you're a veteran, if you know somebody who's a veteran, call 855-PuroVet or go to purovet.com, purovet.com, and you'll be glad you did. When we come back, Donnie Steele, state rep from Lake Orion, Michigan, will be with me. Don't go anywhere. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now as we jump into the next conversation here. And we try to do all we can for you. Remember, you can always send me a note, stevegruber.com, if you've got a big story like that, too. If you've got a lead on a big story like that, too. We're working on a documentary here, by the way, on the victims of fentanyl and the angel moms and the angel dads. If you got something in that regard, please send me an email, stevegruber.com. Next joining us, Donnie Steele. She's a state representative from District 54, that's Lake Orion. Chair of the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation. Donnie, nice to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas.
Great. Merry Christmas. Great to have you here. Look, clawing back the budget has been a challenge. The Republicans, under Speaker Matt Hall, were able to cut the budget by a couple $3 billion. But look, the last time Rick Snyder was there, I think the annual budget was $57 billion. A state like North Carolina has 500,000 more people than we do, and they've got a budget that spends $20 billion less. I mean, why does Michigan spend so much money for so little in return?
I've been asking myself that since I've been elected. So, and as you dig around and you see what we're spending money on, I think that most taxpayers would be mortified. And, there's a bunch of nonprofits, there's a bunch of bunch of good organizations that are there to be helpful for the people of the residents, but I don't think that we're getting a good buy for our dollar.
I don't think so either. Yeah, some roads have been fixed here and there, but as a general theme, Michigan roads are still the worst. And I look at states like Ohio and Indiana. Michigan was the only state in America last year that raised income taxes. Now you've got some outside group that wants to more than double tax on anybody that has a gross income of $500,000 or a couple of $1 million, which is passed through corporations like S-corps and LLCs. I mean, just the worst possible policies being foisted upon the people in Michigan. That plus the first state ever to retract right to work. No wonder these companies are going to Indiana and Ohio and Tennessee and ignoring Michigan. Why would they come here?
And the thing is that, like you look at like Georgia and like North Carolina, and in the last decade, they have passed us in population. So we're educating people and our tax dollars through our public schools, not only K through 12, but our colleges are subsidized through state tax dollars.
Well, our test scores are awful, but carry on.
Well, so you educate them through U of M, and then they go take jobs in other states. I mean, we give $40 million every year for U of M, and you can go right down the list. Michigan State, Saginaw Valley, we subsidize every one of them for their operating budget every year, and we have an exodus of our young people. So we educate them, and then they leave us. It just seems like that too is not a really good business model that we continue to follow. So, just going back to the roads, being that I'm on the sub-appropriations committee for the roads, we were able to add close to $2 billion from driveways to highways for the neighborhood roads without raising taxes. So the money is there. You just have to be smart with it like you would at your own home budget, pay for the leaky roof before you go to Disneyland.
That would make sense, or to Japan, or to Europe, or what's the travel plans on for the governor? She's been all over the place. Look, she wants to be president of the United States. It's no secret. She's had that dream for a long time now. It's what she wants to do, what she wants to be. I don't think her record's going to stand up particularly well, but maybe that's just me. As we look at 2026, you continue to claw back money. Where do we need to be? What are some of your priorities for 2026? Obviously, you want to do well in the elections in November, but before we get there, what other things can Republicans do? You have control of the House. Speaker Hall, I think, has done a masterful job of working with folks like yourself to get some of this money back. But where do we go from here?
You know what? I think we're just getting started. I think it's unfortunate that when, a budget's a 1,000-page document, 1,500 pages, and when, like, for Attorney General, for an example, they had one line item for the entire budget. And our Representative Kuhn was able to take one line item and make it into 32 lines, or within the 30 lines. So one line item is you don't know how much you're paying for payroll. You don't know how much you're paying for actual lawsuits. And so when you start to go through it, you say, okay, we could do better with we have too many full-time employees. We have, I don't know, 900 buildings at the state level that are virtually empty. I mean, think about that, 500 of them that we own and 400 of them that we lease, and they're only occupied 20%. That's a big expense on the state level. The ghost employees, I mean, but the clawback was the most interesting portion of it. And you hear all the hubbub in the news about how terrible, and we're going to take away these terrible, Republicans are terrible. But the percentage, it's $640 million out of an $82 billion budget. And so when you say that we clawed all this money back, we could have clawed back closer to $3 billion in these work projects that have been set up in last year's budget that none of the Republicans in the House voted for. So, I mean, you could have, so a work project is something that you put out there that mostly is pork that is in the queue to go fund, I don't know, a fire truck. And you don't even do anything to go buy the fire truck. You haven't ordered the fire truck. You haven't allocated the fire truck money. And so we figured, well, they must not need a fire truck if they haven't moved forward on the fire truck. So we would claw that back from last year's budget. So we recognized that there was $3 billion that we could have actually clawed back from last year's budget, and we only clawed back $640 million. And work projects go back. That was just last year's budget, but the work projects go back years and years and years that they just stuff away these money in these little line items that people aren't even paying attention to. And they recognize that there's probably close to $10 billion in those work projects. And if you count the federal money, it might be closer to $30 billion in these work projects, that these money that's not allocated. So it's like, we are just getting started. And I think that, like you said, what can we do? We can work towards making sure that we win the House, the Senate, and the governor to be able to really roll back this budget to where it was when Snyder was in the administrative office.
Yeah. Donnie Steele, District 54, Lake Orion. A lot of work to be done, more money to be saved for the taxpayers. If you don't need the money, we're going to take the money back. I think that's a great place to be. Merry Christmas, Donnie. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. Happy New Year, Steve. Keep it up.
Happy New Year. There you go. Donnie Steele, everybody. We got to claw that money back. North Carolina, Georgia, two very good examples of states that have passed us in population, but are billions of dollars less in spending. You been to Georgia? You been to North Carolina? Yeah, they're in better shape. I can assure you of that. All right, after the break, term limits. I'm not a fan, but I'm thawing to the idea. All right, my next guest is going to talk about that. Thinks it's the way to save Congress. I'm not sure yet, but we'll talk about it straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. All right. Term limits. It's something that I've been skeptical of for a long time because here's what my guess is. If you term limit members of Congress or United States Senate, then the people that are left behind, the staffers, just move around, shuffle around from office to office, and they have the real power. My next guest has a different opinion. That's okay. Maybe he can convince me. Ron Eller, Mississippi State Chair for the U.S. Term Limits, a retired captain in the Army and a candidate for Congress, challenging an incumbent who's been there for 32 years. Ron, welcome to the program.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet with you. And I
Glad to have you here.
To speak with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, 32 years, that's excessive. It was never designed, our political structure, to have permanent members of the political class. You're supposed to go to Washington as a farmer or an employee of a company or a business owner and be there for a little bit, do your bit, and go home, right? But that doesn't happen, does it?
No, sir. What has happened is we've created an elite political class, and that they have gerrymandered the situation where they can keep themselves in power. You know, when you look at the situation, they'll tell you, well, elections are term limits, but that's not true. 98% of all incumbents are reelected. And when you look across the electorate, the population, over 80% want term limits imposed. Now, people would tell you that we can't get term limits, but I would tell you that's wrong. It was February 27th, 1951, when the 22nd Amendment was ratified, almost 75 years ago. And that was the amendment that brought term limits against the president. That was done under threat of a convention of states, Article 5. Right now, the same thing is proceeding with the House. And there are over 20 states that have signed on to a convention of states. I believe once you get to the high 20s, low 30s, then the Congress and the Senate will pick it up and pass a bill that they can live with. I believe that bill that they would end up passing would grandfather these people in so that they can serve extra terms. But if
Convention of states would take, what would it take? How many states have to be on board? 38?
34.
Is that correct? 34. But in order to pass a constitutional amendment, which hasn't happened in quite some time, it takes 38 states, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Well, what about my concerns that it would be the staffers, the lifetime people that are there that run the offices of those in Congress or run the offices of those in the United States Senate? Those people would end up with
that
more
is
power.
a legitimate concern. But, you know, if you don't change the leadership, you can't change the people underneath. Those staffers can be replaced just the same. Additionally, with the term limits bill, I would like to see an additional statement that says if you leave Congress, the Senate, then you cannot go to work for a lobbyist group for a probationary period.
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think there's another problem. You know, and I don't like it. Excuse me. One other thing I don't like is people that run for Congress and then quit. Mark Green did it in Tennessee. Marjorie Taylor Greene did it in Georgia. I don't like that. You ran for the office. You campaigned for the office. It was no revelation that politics is ugly. And so I don't like that at all. What are your thoughts on that?
I do have issues with that as well. But, you know, if you can't do the job, well, I have to give them a nod and say, thank you for getting out of the way. But, yeah, you need to go in there with a clear head that you can do the job. And that's why I would tell you, I think people who are ex-military are a good source for people to be in office. You know,
who are you running against, Ron?
Receiving orders.
You're running against somebody
Benny Thompson, the chairman
right, so
of the
here's
January
the thing.
6th committee.
There's a Supreme Court case that's going to be decided in June that could mean Benny Thompson would be gone anyway, because if the United States Supreme Court decides, as I believe they will, that you cannot gerrymander congressional districts based on race, it'll affect Benny Thompson's district. It'll affect districts in Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana, and other places. that will swing the pendulum about 12 seats in favor of the Republicans. That would make your race a lot easier, wouldn't it?
It would, but I don't believe that it would happen this election cycle. You know, our primaries are March 10th. And if you look at Mississippi as a whole, everybody would tell you it's the poorest state in the nation. But I would tell you that's not accurate. If you only looked at the 1st, the 3rd, and 4th congressional district, you would see that the 2nd congressional district pulls down the entire state. We would be about number 42 instead of number 50 economically. There are 30 counties that compose the 2nd congressional district, of which 16 are in the top 100 poorest counties, 5 in the top 10 poorest counties. And, you know, it's been under economic blight with this Democratic leadership for decades.
Sure.
And we have to change
last
that.
word. Here's my last question.
sir.
What's it going to take to get term limits? And is it really possible? Last word to you.
Yes, sir. It is very possible. I would everybody that's listening right now, go to termlimits.com, read the site, sign the pledge, and send a note to your elected official. Hey, it's time to step up. It's time for you to pick up the bill that's sitting there. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has signed the pledge to support that bill if we can get enough votes.
There you go. I really appreciate you being here, Ron. Best of luck in your challenge to Benny Thompson. I think the world would be better served if you were there and not him. I'll just say that, sir. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Can I give my website?
Go ahead, real quick.
Go to voteroneller.com to learn more about myself and my campaign. And if you want to see a short commercial and maybe just donate, go to helpron.com. And my phone number is real simple, 888-355-3722. That's 888-ELLER22. Because in 22, I started the mission to take back America.
Got to leave it right there. All right, time for a personal note here. As I reflect on the last 20 years, the 23rd of December, 20 years ago, my father died. So today is 20 years since I lost my dad in an accidental fall. Terrible way to lose somebody. I don't know if there's a good way to lose anybody, but to find out that your father at the age of 67 had fallen on the stairs. He lived alone with his dog, so nobody knew we didn't have contact with him. Couldn't get a hold of him, and his voicemail was full, which was never normal. Never normal. But I'm not sad today. I reflect on, the impact my father had on my life, the positive things, the places we went, the things I learned from him. But it's shocking how fast these things pass. A big event happens, and then suddenly it's 20 years later. And you think, where has the time gone? It disappoints me that he didn't really meet, he met my middle daughter, but barely, and never met my son, which is kind of sad. He never met my wife. He would have loved Ivy. Ivy likes to hunt and fish. My dad was a guy who loved to hunt and fish. He was really good at it. Could outshoot anybody wing shooting that I pretty much knew, most people. There were exceptions, but man, he could shoot. So today, as I go into the Christmas season, I reflect on that, think about the good times that we had in places like Montana, New Zealand, and different things. But I say this to say to you, embrace those that you love this weekend. Put the conflicts out of the way. We had conflicts. I mean, nobody could make me happier or more enraged, and all in about 3 seconds' time, than my father. But put that aside. Embrace family. And do it in the true spirit of Christmas, because you never know when somebody's going to fall down the stairs. All right? I leave you with that. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.